Welcome everybody to a look at my Letterboxd profile for 2025. So it's basically just a year in review. We've done this a couple of times. I don't think I did it last year actually. I'm not sure why. Well, 2024. I don't think I did it, obviously. But still, yeah, 2025. Absolutely amazing year for films. Be they new ones or watching ones for the first time that were released before 2025. And yeah, as a result, I watched 880 films in total. Granted, last year I did watch 810, so I'm not massively ahead, but still enough ahead to watch 1500 plus hours of films overall. And yeah, like I said, it's just been an amazing year for films. We're going to go through a look at some of my lists, some of my stats and stuff. Look at some of my favourites, some of my least favourites. So, yeah, as you can see here, this says favourite pre 2025 first time viewing. So, basically, any film that I give a rating of 4.5 or more that is released before 2025, as far as UK release dates go, will go onto this list. And yeah, as you can see, several films here are ones that I have reviewed on this channel already because they've been released physically. So, like the Police Python 357, which won a one of my physical film award nominations. So yeah, that's still comfortably my favorite film of 2025 that I watched. But then you had great films like Incendies, High and Low, Harvey, and What's Up Doc taking up the entire top five there. All quite different films, I guess you could say. Crime thriller with Police Python, a really rather affecting drama with Incendies, a bit of a thriller with High and Low. Harvey, bit more of a drama comedy, and then What's Up Doc, full on comedy and does absolutely outrageous from beginning to end. That film, it's absolutely hilarious, and yeah, they're just basically my favourite films of the year that I have seen before 2025. But obviously we also have some of the bad ones that we'll look at. So I rated two films half a star, and they were War of the Worlds and American Ninja for the Annihilation. And then I rated four films 1 star out of 5, which obviously is also not particularly great. Let's get on it. There we go. So that was the likes of Eliram, which has some of the worst special effects you'll ever see in a modern day action film. It's the kind of thing that I really do not like about a lot of modern action films, is where they rely on CGI, be they for the explosions, to the muzzle fire for the guns, or worst of all, blood squirts or blood squibs or anything like that is just replaced by CGI, and it's just, yeah, absolutely awful. Strangers Chapter 2, one of my least favourite horror films of the year. I didn't much care for the first one either, so, it wasn't a surprise that it was bad, but neither was it particularly good. Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, yeah, even somehow worse than the first film. And then Ultraviolet, yeah, another poor Mila Djokovic film from the mid 2000s. And then we also rated 9 films 1.5 out of 5. So some of these we will see again in other lists, but yeah, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Never liked the first two films, so any of the callbacks in this film to those two just went right over my head because I just didn't care. Flight Risk. I usually like a lot of location thrillers and stuff like that, but this just didn't use its predominantly single location well at all. Then I watched Strangers Chapter 1 because I was anticipating the sequel. Yeah, and somehow, yeah, neither are any good. I rewatched The Concorde Airport 79, worst film out of the 4 of those from the 70s, but still really rather entertaining in a kind of a bad way. Next, yeah, another underwhelming Nicolas Cage film from the 2000s. Then we had Power the Escape. Yeah, one of the worst kind of prison escape films out there. In the Lost Lands, another Mila Djokovic film that's just not great at all, although still not my worst film of the year. Then we had Delta Force 2, The Colombian Connection, nowhere near as good as the first film. And then Black Eagle, a really rather underwhelming Van Damme film. And then finally, second to last, before we get, I'd actually say 2.5 stars, not an awful film by any means. It's still just about average, but yeah, 2 stars or less is where a lot of films I don't like end up. So we've had a few of the films that I've actually looked at physically that are on here. So Hex vs. Witchcraft, Diary of a Shinjuku Thief, From Hell It Came. So yeah, I can see there's plenty here that I have rated 2 stars or only. And yeah, they're the only ones physically that I have looked at. But yeah, Midnight in St. Petersburg is one of the Harry Palmer sequels in the 90s. Not good at all, or neither is the other one in the series either from that same decade. The Octagon, underwhelming Chuck Norris film. Aeon Flux, yeah, not good at all. Three Musketeers is a very weak remake. American Ninja 3 Blood Hunt, not as bad as the fourth one, because obviously that had an even lower rating, but still not particularly great. The Final Destination, worst film in that series by a wide margin. Next Karate Kid, not very good at all, certainly not as good as the first three. Evasive Action, I like Roy Schneider a lot, but yeah, not particularly good, that one. It's really hampered by its poor production values. Same with Cleaner, although that is also trying to be Die Hard, and it's just not doing it at all. Ghost Rider, another underwhelming Nicolas Cage film from the 2000s. R.I.P.D., yeah, that's just trying to be every kind of film possible, while being, yeah, only rated, 12A or PG-13 if you're in America. Exodus, Gods and Kings, a bunch of white people trying to be Middle Eastern. From Hell It Came, I like it enough, but I can't, justifiably give it any higher rating than that. But as a fan of low-budget 50s films that are in the sci-fi genre, it is decent enough. The Ritual, yeah, a poor, exorcism film. Last Shark, Jaws knockoff. Puppet Master, really boring. Again, another film hampered by its production values, much like Dawn of the Mummy, which waiting forever to finally see that in a good quality, because the only version I originally could be able to see was on Amazon Prime, and it was in the worst quality you could ever imagine. But the Blu-ray doesn't exactly help the film anymore. The Amityville Horror, didn't much like the original one, and this one isn't any better. Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Yeah, never liked the first two films, so yeah, this one, even though the plot is better and the cast seem a little less smug in their roles, it's still not particularly great. Diary of a Shinjuku Thief, that is purely just down to taste. I know a lot of people do highly rate that one, so yeah, that's just down to me. Fear Street Prom Queen just looks like a film that was not particularly great, so they slapped the Fear Street name onto it to sell it a bit better, but yeah, it doesn't have any link to the first three films from Netflix. G20, a very poor, underwhelming action film that, again, is like trying to be like a Die Hard. And then Hex vs. Witchcraft, yeah, one of the worst from the Short Scope Volume 4 box set. So, yeah, they're the films that I've rated quite lowly. Obviously, I don't like to always be down on films, but that's just the way it goes. As far as stats go, well, obviously, like I said, 880 films watched over the year. That's 73 on average over the month, and that's nearly 17 a week. Most popular week was October 27th to November 2nd with 33 films. Being Halloween, I just, absolutely gorged out on films, so that's primarily why. And Saturday is the most popular day of the year as well. And yeah, these are diary milestones, so yeah, it didn't take long to knock down several of these milestones. Did take a little bit longer than usual, though, by looks of things, to get from 700 to 800. Which again is a surprise, given obviously that's the start of that big week where I watched 33 films. But yeah, it did take a little bit of time to get there. But then again, as you can see, it's only really about the same amount of time as 600 to 700. I'd actually say 500 to 600 was probably the longer period. So yeah, but still, nice milestones there. And then that's every film I watched. That's just mainly for me. And then the juicy bits, 2025 in film. So I'll actually open the list properly here. So been a fantastic year for 2025 overall, to be honest. Amazing films. One thing I'm really glad is that I actually got to see Frankenstein at the cinema. Obviously being a Netflix film, it was only ever going to be briefly out on the big screen. So I was really, really glad to see that. But Sinners stood at the top of the leaderboard, or the top of my list, ever since it came out. So yeah, it took quite some time for that to get knocked out of the top spot. But even so, it only went down to second. Still a fantastic film. Still one of my favourite IMAX experiences of the year. And then Wake Up Dead Man, another film from Netflix. One that didn't, unfortunately, get to see at the cinema. But even though, despite that, I still found it to be thoroughly engaging. And yeah, my favourite of the trilogy. 28 years later, Danny Boyle finally returned to the horror genre. And in fine style. And then finally One Bottle of Another topping out the top 5. But other notable films here that I think people should watch is The Last Stop in Yuma County, Flow, Weapons if you haven't already, if you somehow haven't seen that. Bring Her Back, one of the more oppressive horror films of the year, but still thoroughly engaging. I really like Predator: Killer of Killers just because it's a violent animated film. I've not had that for quite some time, I believe, as far as Western films go. Then we had Palestine 36, highlighting the history of Palestine before they were, partitioned, or during the part where they were being partitioned, and how the British had a really sizable role in, the future decades that country would suffer under, or the brutalism that they've suffered under. So yeah, highly recommend that. It's easily one of my favourites of the year. As you can see, it's in the top 25. And then we had several horror films in a row, really, that were pretty much dead set alongside of each other. So Final Destination Bloodlines, Conjuring Last Rites, Heart Eyes, The Monkey, and Silent Night, Deadly Night. All of them are a surprise, really, because obviously these two films here, Final Destination, Conjuring, there's several films into their series now, their respective series, so you could easily have been very, very poor in terms of their quality, but in general, they were really, really good. And yeah, hopefully we'll get another Final Destination at some point, and we don't have to wait several more years for that. And then Heart Eyes and The Monkey, yeah, really, really fun slashers. Slasher in terms of Heart Eyes, good mixing of the rom-com and the slasher genres, to be honest. And then The Monkey is just really rather funny. My favourite film from Osgood Perkins this year. And then Silent Night, Deadly Night is the perfect idea of a remake, really. Remake a film that was never any good to start with, and do it better. And it did it in fine style. So, yeah, excellent film, to be honest. Then we had the likes of, again, Osgood Perkins cropping up with Keeper. Didn't enjoy it quite as much as The Monkey, but still an all-round really rather good film. Then we had The Toxic Avenger. Easily the most gross out horror film of the year. Definitely was the case with that one. And then there were several films that I kind of watched at home, and because they weren't obviously also released at the cinema. So the likes of She Rides Shotgun, excellent. Reflection in a Dead Diamond, really rather nicely blends together the likes of the 60s Euro spy genre and the giallo genre. And then 40 Acres, yeah, that's just a really riveting kind of post-apocalyptic film. Then Dogman, that was quite funny actually. I'm a little bit annoyed that I didn't get around to seeing that when it was released at the cinemas. Relay, another good one from watching at home. Didn't think the final twist was necessary, but still decent enough. Then Troll 2, I know it's not a great film, just like the first one, to be honest, but the fact that we get these kind of kaiju films, which we don't really get outside of, your massive big budget American films, or the once in a few years that we get a Godzilla film. So yeah, it's nice to have something a little bit in the middle ground there. European, mid-sized budget, but still really rather fun. But then we'll also get down to the less than good films. So yeah, SpongeBob, Search for SquarePants. It's not the worst film in the series. I think it's joint last with the previous film. But the first one still hasn't been matched by any of the sequels, so it wasn't any surprise that it was as the way it was. Then we have How to Train Your Dragon, the live-action remake. Utterly pointless in a lot of ways, basically because it is shot for shot the same film, but it's also longer, less visually interesting, and yeah, just entirely unnecessary, really. And then we'll get to the bottom of my list as well. So every film, ignore that. Every film below 106 and below is 2.5 stars or less. So yeah, Electric State, $300 million flop. Basically, just don't see the point in it spending that much when it doesn't even look that expensive. Tron Ares, another expensive film that does look expensive. The special effects are actually pretty great, but you got Jared Leto in a really rather weak leading role, and then yeah, just not much of a story. Play Dirty, just another confirmation that Shane Black really has lost his touch. Not as bad as The Predator, but nowhere near as good as the likes of the Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, or Iron Man 3, quite frankly. Heads of State, another weak political action thriller like G20, although at least a little bit better than that. Then we've already talked about Now You See Me, Now You Don't, Prom Queen, The Ritual, G20, Cleaner, In Los Lands, and then War of the Worlds, comfortably the worst film of the year. So yeah, not the worst film that the worst film that Ice Cube's been in as well, and that is including a year where we've had a remake of Anaconda. So yeah, there is that. And then yeah, that's just we'll have a look at the stats for every film I have watched, because this does break it down a little bit better. So top years would be 2025 with 100 films, 2024 with 25, 1976 with 22 films, 1980 with 18 films, with the incredible Night of the Juggler being the last one from that year to watch in 2025, and then 18 films from 1975. Another fantastic year. Dog Day Afternoon, Jaws, Durzo Wazala, and Night Moves, and even The Old Gun is fairly good. And then it just breaks it down even more as you go along. So yeah, as you can see, most of the films I watched this in 2025 were owned, as you can see, 52.7%. So yeah, streaming services might well have the vast amount of films to watch, but yeah, it was owned where I was, watching most of my stuff from. So yeah, the rest of the stats are going to be what we're going to see already. And yeah, these are my favourite pre-2025 first-time viewings. Night of the Juggler, again, in 10th place there. And yeah, just so many great films. Obviously, not all of these haven't been able to review, because I don't have them physically. I might change that up at some point. But yeah, regardless, a lot of great films there. And then ending with Thunder Road in 60th place. And then these are all the films that I watched at the cinema. So obviously it's not just 2025 films that you get to see at the cinema. It is a lot of re-releases as well. And these are in order of when I watched them. So first film of the year was Nosferatu. Decent film, but not as great as I was hoping. And then swiftly followed up by Baby Girl, A Real Pain. There was a re-release of Seven for its 30th anniversary. Then we had Maria, Wolfman, Captain Cronus, Vampire Hunter was released. Not for any kind of anniversary really, but it was nice to see that at the cinema regardless. Then Presents, then The Apartment, that was for its 65th anniversary. Then Companion, Hard Truths, Last Showgirl, Brief Encounter for its 80th. Casino for its 30th. Then Heart Eyes, Love Hurt, The Monkey, Captain America, Brave New World. Less said about that, the better. Then The Big Lebowski, not for its anniversary or anything, it was just re-released at our cinema, and yeah, I'd seen it before seeing it at the cinema, but seeing it at the cinema was just even better, because you were able to get in with the crowd, in with the laughs and such, and that just made the experience far more enjoyable. Then One of Them Days, Mickey 17, Black Bag, Novocaine, Wild Robot re-release. That was re-released on the IMAX screen. It was originally in IMAX when it was released in 2024, but I never got the chance to see it in that format, so I took the opportunity to watch that. And then immediately after, literally about 15 minutes later, The Dark Knight was shown on IMAX as well. And yeah, that's not the greatest experience with that in IMAX, because the sound quality, even though it's good, it's very reliant on bass, and yeah, my spine felt like it was going to fall out, especially during, I think it was a nightclub scene or something, and yeah, wasn't pleasant. Then we had a re-release of Blade Runner, again not for an anniversary. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou for its 25th. Then In the Lost Lands, then Y2K, then The Out All Night. So not a particularly great trio of films there. Bad Boys for its 30th, then Last Breath, Mulholland Drive, and then I was able to see all three Lord of the Rings films back to back. Yeah, that was a marathon. That was about 12 hours or something like that. It was absolutely mental, but yeah, really rather fun. Then Woman in the Yard, then got to see Interstellar on the IMAX screen. Again, not a film I originally got the chance to see in the IMAX format, so yeah, that was great. Then Flow, Death of the Unicorn, Mira's Wedding, which is still a fantastic romantic comedy. A Working Man, then Scarface, then Drop, then The Amateur. Then got to see The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. Absolutely fantastic film, and to be able to see it on the big screen was a real treat. Same with La Haine for its 30th, then Sinners in IMAX, American Psycho for its 25th, Apocalypse Now, that was absolutely incredible. Then The Accountant 2, Pride and Prejudice for its 20th, Taxi Driver, then Until Dawn, then Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, again one of the highlights as far as the IMAX screens go. Once Upon a Time in America, an absolutely sensational film. Can't think of any other way I would rather spend 300 bit hours watching a film. Then Thunderbolts, then Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Then Final Destination Bloodlines, that was also in IMAX. Then Django Unchained. And then we had The Surfer, which was really weird but fun. And then 28 Days Later, in anticipation of 28 years later. Stand By Me, rest in peace, Robin Reiner. Then Memento for its 25th. Then Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, another highlight of the IMAX screen. And again, in anticipation, we obviously watched the previous one. So yeah, it was really fun revisiting the previous one again in IMAX and then getting the chance to see the new one as well not long after. Then The Phoenician Scheme, my first Wes Anderson film at the cinema, I believe that was, which was great. And then Ballerina, Clown in the Caulfield, Sicario for its 10th anniversary, Dog Day Afternoon for its 50th. Then The Salt Path, Karate Kid Legends, 28 years later, which is a shame that that wasn't released in the IMAX screen, really. I thought it was going to because the trailers actually said premium format, so yeah, it's a little bit of a shame we didn't get that. How to Train Your Dragon, Megan 2.0, F1, Superman, Jurassic World Rebirth, Fantastic Four, Bring Her Back, Legend of Uichi, which is highly underrated, to be honest, I really enjoyed that. Freakier Friday, The Naked Gun, one of the better comedies of the year, to be honest. Weapons, Together, Nobody 2, Elio, Jaws for its 50th in IMAX as well. Superb time at the cinema that was. Easily one of my favourites cinema trips of the year. Then The Conjuring Last Rites, Toxic Avenger, Long Walk, Bad Guys 2, Caught Stealing, Honey Don't, Spinal Tap, The End Continues again, rest in peace Rob Reiner. One Battle of Another, excellent IMAX format screening that was. Then Strangers Chapter 2, we went from one of the best to one of the worst. Then Roofman, Platform 2, Tron Ares. Then Good Boy. Then Frankenstein, favourite film of the year. Then Back to the Future, just like Jaws, got to see it for its IMAX on IMAX, and that was for its 40th. Then Begonia, then Predator: Badlands, then Sketch, probably one of the lower budgeted films of the year that I've seen, although I think Shelby Oaks was even lower budgeted. Then Nuremberg, then The Running Man, which is really disappointing as far as Edgar Wright films go. It's my least favourite of his that I've seen. Keeper, Now You See Me, Now You Don't, Zootopia 2, It's a Wonderful Life for Christmas, not for any anniversary, although it will be its 80th this year, so no doubt it will get released again. But yeah, absolutely superb seeing that at the cinema. And Silent Night, Deadly Night, and then The Shining, also for its 45th anniversary, but also on IMAX. So it's nice to see that these older films are coming out on a new format that obviously wasn't around at the time. Then Die Hard, obviously Christmas film, gonna see it at Christmas. The Housemaid, that's probably one of the most unequal gendered screenings I've ever been to in my life. I was literally only one of like three or four other guys there, heavily orientated towards women, but still also a really rather solid thriller, throwback to the 90s. And then Anaconda, The Girl Who Let Through Time, never seen it before, but it was re-released for its for a 4K new version or something, I'm not sure, but regardless, yeah, really fantastic anime. And capped it off with SpongeBob SquarePants. So yeah, and yeah, this is a breakdown in terms of genres and countries. So drama was the most popular, USA was the most popular country, and English of course the most popular language. But it is interesting in terms of outside the UK and the USA what is also popular. So Hong Kong, naturally because of the Shawscope box set and other Shawscope films, then France, then Italy. And then, but there is a bit of a gap, as you can see. Germany, Japan, Italy, France, and Hong Kong are all only about 12 films between them. But then after Germany, drops off by 30 to Canada, then Spain, then Australia. So you can kind of see where 2025 was leaning a lot in terms of mainly because of physical releases. You know, Germany obviously with all of those box sets from Eureka, a lot of them were in like Germany and such, and then Japan obviously several films. You know, we had the Radiance Radical in Japan box set, that was 9 films, and then you know several others. Italy, yeah, basically all of the kind of horror and more art house kind of films, and then France, same kind of thing, and then Hong Kong, all of those Shaw Brother releases. So yeah, all fantastic in that regard. And then as you can see, 88.6% of the films I watched were from before 2025 in terms of premieres. Like I said, I do base my lists on UK release dates in terms of physical, theatrical, or digital releases. Premieres just seem a little bit pointless, really, because it's only really ever going to be advantageous for anyone that's living in that same country. So it just doesn't seem fair. And then rewatches, only 26.7%. Didn't rewatch a lot this year, or 2025. So yeah, might well correct that a little bit, just because there are several films out there that I've been meaning to rewatch, and then I've reviewed most of them. I generally don't review a film if I've recently reviewed it either the year before or just don't have anything new to say. And the most popular rating was 4 out of 5 with 259 films. And then 212 for 3.5, then 152 for 4.5, then 151 for 3 out of 5. So very close between, yeah, just above average and very nearly perfect. So yeah, and then 35 for 5 out of 5. So yeah, and that's also quite close between that and 2.5 out of 5 as well. So yeah, quite a mixed bag generally. And these are my top 10 cast members, as you can see, heavily influenced by Shaw Scope, Shaw volume box set, or Shaw Brothers films in general from Hong Kong. Literally, the only Western actors there was Christopher Lee and Michael Caine, and these two are, I think, mostly due to rewatches. Yeah, there's 5 of the 13 there from Christopher Lee that are rewatches, so only 8 new ones, and then 4 out of the 10 for Michael Caine. So yeah, not thoroughly weighted towards rewatches, but yeah, if you took those out, they wouldn't be in the top 10, would they? So yeah, that's the way it goes. And then top 10 directors. So again, heavily influenced by what I bought, especially with Chang Che, who's gone from let's have a look, all-time stats. I think he's on 27 now. Yeah, 27. So he's gone from 14 to 27 purely because of the films that I've bought this year, and that's therefore had him smash the previous trio of filmmakers who were at the top of the leaderboard: Roger Corman, Ishiro Honda, and Alfred Hitchcock, and he's leapfrogged them to become the most popular. So yeah, purely because of this year, he's now my top director on my stats for overall. But then in Gisho Oshima, again, just purely because of one box set release, he's got 9 films there. Akira Kurosawa, several rewatches there. Yeah, as you can see, 5 of the 8 there are rewatches, but again, that's because of physical releases on 4K. But still fantastic year anyway, even if you took those out, because High and Low, Stray Dog, and Desert Wazala were just fantastic. Then Lo Wei, then Kwai Chai Hung, again purely because of like Shaw Scope films. Yeah, 5 of the 7 there. Then Blake Edwards, they were mainly rewatches. Yeah, only one first time watch, but I watched The Party because I'm trying to watch as many Peter Sellers films as possible. But that then just hooked me on watching other Peter Sellers films from Blake Edwards, so I ended up going through the Pink Panther films, which, yeah, is mostly a really, really good series. It's one of the more consistent comedy series going out there. Lowest, it's only 3.5 out of 5, but as you can see, you got 3 films there that are 4 out of 5 than the best of the series. As far as I'm concerned, is A Shot in the Dark. Then Terence Young, David Lean, again because of a box set from Imprint, then Guy Hamilton, and finally Terence Fisher. And then you got obviously crew and studio. So obviously, if you look at producers, you got like Run Shaw, who obviously is part of the Shaw Scope Brothers studio. So that's why he's there. But then you also scroll down, and then you got studios, and as you can see, Shaw Brothers very nearly topping the list there. Only Columbia Pictures beating them out, but they've beaten much bigger studios like United Artists, Universal Pictures, and Paramount. So yeah, they did really, really, really well there. My most liked review was Sinners with 14 likes, and then these are the highs and lows. So highest average, high and low with 4.6 out of 5. Lowest average, no surprise, War of the Worlds with 1 out of 5. Most popular, Interstellar, 4.4 out of 5. Most obscure was Free Came to Kill. That's a Cameron Mitchell film. Yeah, directed by Edward L. Khan, who I've seen plenty of from before. And I don't think there's been that many people that have watched it. There's been 1, 3, 13, 26, 42, 49, 50. Only 50 people, well, 49 other people have watched it, 50 me included. So yeah, very obscure film, but actually a fairly decent thriller. Newest film that I watched was Anaconda, released on the 13th of December 2025. Oldest film was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, again thanks to a physical release. That's from 24th of December 1916. Longest, Once Upon a Time in America, at 229 minutes long, Herculean film, but well worth the watch. And the shortest was one of those shorts from the Essential Polish Animation box set from Radiance, at 2 minutes long, Banner of Youth. And rated higher than average, and then rated lower than average. And yeah, all the films that I watched, obviously you can see more there. And then my world map. So I don't think I added any new countries to my world map overall, but there were several. Actually, I think Egypt is a first time addition to my overall world map. But regardless, yeah, as you can see, a very European centric, kind of somewhat moving into the Middle East with Palestine and Jordan, and then Qatar and United Arab Emirates. Then you've also got likes of Turkey, Greece, Bulgaria, Hungary, Poland, Latvia, and Estonia on the eastern side of things. So yeah, but it's still a very Eurocentric kind of watch time here. We even likes of Liechtenstein and Luxembourg, much smaller countries than a lot, but still somehow got some films in from them. But yeah, even though China obviously dominates the map, I only watched 2 from there this year in 2025. As far as Hong Kong, 68. So yeah, it's a shame that even though obviously I've watched far more from the smaller country over the bigger one, it's a shame that it doesn't show it brighter, because even Taiwan has had one more than China. So yeah, it's a shame that it's not quite, the colour isn't quite much different. 12 from Australia, 4 from New Zealand. Only 2 countries in Africa in 2025, unfortunately. But yeah, there's just not that many films that are going to pique my interest from that continent, unfortunately. But my overall world map is a lot more full than that. Only 1 film from South America, well, outside of Mexico. And then only 1 Caribbean island, Puerto Rico. Bahamas was originally highlighted, but for whatever reason that changed. And then obviously the United States dominating again in terms of brightness, as you can see. So yeah, that's most of the year, to be honest. It's been a fantastic year, like I said. A lot of films that I've enjoyed. Some films there are going to be all-time favourites from now on in, especially I think it's 9th place onwards. Yeah. So top 10, 9 of those top 10 are 5 out of 5. So definitely some now all-time new favourites. So yeah, overall a fantastic year. So I'd like to hear your what your year for 2025 in film was like. If it was as packed as mine was, or even more so. I know there's been plenty of people out there that have watched it even more than I have. But yeah, still, it's been a fantastic year. It's one that I really, really, really enjoyed. And hopefully 2026, as far as films go, is going to be even better, be they at the cinema or physically released. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.